a Riptide Media Networks. I am Coach Gene Clemens. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, wherever you get, whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. I'm happy to be here today. And before I get started, when I say make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, I actually mean go and like this stream. Go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go and follow me on Twitter or Instagram or Twitch or Facebook or anywhere that you follow people at, on TikTok, all at Gene Clemens. Make sure that you go to the YouTube channel at Coach Gene Clemens. Hit that subscribe button. Ladies and gentlemen, it only helps. It doesn't hurt, and it does not cost. I have to say that because I appreciate all of the people who've been listening to the pod, who have been watching the pod, who have been watching the streams, who like to see this salt and pepper up here on their screens. But it only continues to happen if you support by subscribing. And then when you do, hey, you know what? Just hit a retweet. If you're out there right now and you're watching on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it, do me a favor and just hit a retweet real quick. Just retweet your boy. You know, just tell a friend to tell a friend. That's how things go viral, right? That's how things go viral. Tell a friend to tell a friend, and then everything gets popping from there. I really do appreciate y'all. We got a great show today. I'm going to be joined at 4:30 by my good friend, a guy I've known for a very long time now, Chris James of the Chopping It Up with CJ podcast. One of the great minds that you haven't heard of. I guarantee you, the people that you listen to, the people that you take advice from, they've probably all stolen something from him at one time or another. Again, you know what I like about my friends is that we don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to all group think. We don't all have to think about things the exact same way. And in fact, the way I think about things and the way that Chris James thinks about things, a lot of times they're different. And I love that about our relationship. I never want a bunch of friends where all of us think the exact same way about the same topics. Like, what fun is that? How do I get better in my craft? How do I get better as a person? How do I get better as a man if all the men that I surround myself with all think about things the exact same way? So we'll talk to CJ, Chris James of Chopping Up with CJ at 4:30. I'll keep him for as long as I can as we get you ready for the second round of the second and the third round of the NFL draft, day 2 of the NFL draft. But I wanted to start here because I said some things yesterday on the Bleacher Brothers show, and shout out to the Bleacher Brothers. Make sure you check out the best of after we're done. But shout out to the Bleacher Brothers and Rob LaStella for having me on the show last night to talk draft while the draft was going on. I stayed with them up until the end of the show. We were able to see the Giants take Malik Neighbors. I thought it was a very sensible pick, but we were talking, and I was talking about this idea that you can't trade out of these top 5 picks, the top 8 picks, the top 10 picks, whatever it is, because those are somehow blue chip prospects. You can get a blue chip prospect. And I said something during that I wasn't just saying, I really and truly believed it. And here it was. There are 11 offensive tackles that are coming out this year that can walk into an NFL team and start tomorrow. 11. Not all of them are going in the first round.
I think Joe Alt is the only one, in my opinion, that'll go top top 10. I think
Fashanu will probably pop in there somewhere. I think those two will probably be top 15, but then there's another like 4 or 5 that can fall anywhere between 15 and 25, I believe. But there are 11 of them that are legitimate starting tackles in the NFL day one, and not all 11 of them are going in the first round. Ladies and gentlemen, I said that knowing how these things work. I don't just talk just for the sake of talking. I say these things because I know how this landscape works. If you're planning on taking, and I said it, I thought that there were going to be way too many quarterbacks taken. I said that yesterday on the pod. Thought there were going to be way too many quarterbacks taken. I don't care what you think about Drake May. I don't think he's that great. Sorry. I don't care what you think about JJ McCarthy. I don't think he's that great. Not enough to move up to 10 to take him. No, I don't think Bo Nix is that great. Not to take him in the first round. Not at all. Ladies and gentlemen, 6 quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks. The Denver Broncos, who knows what they're doing over there, but whatever. They traded for Zach Wilson and then went out and got Bo Nix. Zach Wilson's been in the league for 3 years, I believe, 3 years. He and Bo Nix are the same age. This is how thirsty these teams are for quarterbacks, that they're willing to reach for quarterbacks you should not have to reach for. Nobody's going to convince me that if Spencer Rattler goes to Oregon, he doesn't put up the same numbers as Bo Nix. Nobody's going to convince me that if Joe Milton goes to Oregon, he doesn't do similar things. Like, really? Joe Milton left Michigan because Michigan didn't want to give him the chance. Why? Because he was a different type of quarterback than what Michigan wants. I understand that. JJ McCarthy was low risk. Not low risk for them to put him in. He's a low risk quarterback. He's not taking risk with the football. Joe Milton taking all the risk. But I want to get back to what I was talking about when I said that the people that would go in the first round. I said Alt would go in the first round. I said Fashanu would go in the first round. They in the top 15 picks, both of them went. I said that there were 11 offensive tackles that were walk in and start today, and 7 of them went in the first round, even though 6 quarterbacks went in the first round, even though there were 3 wide receivers taken in the first 9 picks. 7 overall. Xavier Leggett, who I thought would drop to the second round because he would just run out. You would just run out of room. He went. So you had all of these quarterbacks, you had all of these wide receivers, and still, with all of that said, there were still 7 offensive tackles, not guys who played tackle but now are going to play guard. Nope, 7 guys who are going to play tackle who were taken in the first round. Joe Alt, J.C. Latham, Olumuyiwa Fashanu. I just butchered that name. Talise Fuaga, Amarius Mims, Troy Fatanu, Tyler Guyton. I said there would be 7. I said there would be those 2, and there would probably be another 4 to 5 that could go in the top 25. They went in the top 29. I was off by 1. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you, there are more tackles out there that are going to go in the first round. I mean, that are going to go today that will be starting for your team come day one. Why? Because the talent is just so rich there. And it's getting, I thought it would get pushed down even more, but it didn't. It still went. Even though people are reaching for four quarterbacks. Even though people were out there reaching for 3 quarterbacks for sure. 3 of them for sure. But I wouldn't be mad if you said 4. 3 of them you reached. They shouldn't even have gone in the first round. The 4th one, it's debatable whether or not he should have went that high. Whether or not he should have went to that team. But I ain't mad at it. But these offensive tackles out here getting taken, these guys are really good. So I did a thing, right? I did a cool thing. I was looking at the 7 offensive tackles, right? I was looking at the 7 offensive tackles that went in the first round, right? And I was thinking to myself, how many of those are on the tops of our football game plan 2024 draft guide? So me, pulled up the draft guide. I wanted to share with y'all. So Trey Fatanu is the number 1 tackle in the 2024 football game plan draft prospect guide. You can just take my word for it. I'm not going to pull it up on it. He's the number 1 offensive tackle. Joe Alt is number 2. Talise Fuaga is number 3. Olo Fashanu is number 4. Right? All 4 of them off the board. Kieran Amagaji is still there. That's the tackle from Yale. He's still on the board. He's our 5th rated tackle. He's still on the board. Scouting grade 84. You know what that means? That means come in and start right now. That's what that means. J.C. Latham was next. He's off the board. Tyler Guyton was next. He's off the board. Kingsley Suamatai from BYU, he's still out there. He has a 78. He has a 79 scouting grade. Ethan Driscoll still out there at 6'8", 315, 79 grade. Nathan Thomas, 78 grade. Jeremy Flack, 78 grade. Mims, who comes in as the 12th rated offensive tackle, went in the first round. You see what I'm saying here? You get what I'm getting at? Hey, by the way, the offensive tackle who was the 13th rated offensive tackle, Jordan Morgan, he went as well. So let me clean that up. 8 offensive tackles went in the draft, although a lot of people think Jordan Morgan will end up playing guard. Those 8 went. Graham Barton went to the Bucks, a sensible pickup for the Bucks. I liked it. But now today you're telling me that there are teams out there that are going to have a chance to get they're going to have a chance to get somewhere around 4 to 5 guys who have starting potential right out the gate. They're going to be able to get them in the second round. Tremendous value at a position of need, at a high value position. You know what that means? That means the guards get pushed down. That means more centers get pushed down. We didn't even get a run on defensive linemen. Why? because 6 quarterbacks went in the first round, because 10 offensive linemen went in the first round, because 7 wide receivers went in the first round. Right? You can't get freaky with it. 7 wide receivers, 10 offensive linemen, 7 wide receivers. Was it 10 offensive linemen? 7, 8, 9. Sorry, 9 offensive linemen, 9 offensive linemen, 7 wide receivers, 6 quarterbacks. That's 23 picks already. 23. So am I surprised that Darius Robinson drops all the way to 27? Nope. Am I surprised? That Nate Wiggins makes it all the way to 30th? Nope. Am I surprised that Terrion Arnold is 24th? That Quinyon Mitchell lasted past 20? That Dolphins are able to get Chop Robinson, one of the most explosive edge rushers, at 21? That Jared Verse in another draft would have been a top 5 pick, but in this draft, he's 19th. In this draft, Dallas Turner 17th. Liatu is 15th. These are guys who would have gone top 10 in other drafts that are going in the mid to late rounds. We only had, 2 defensive tackles taken? Maybe one. Byron Murphy. Can't think of the other one I'm looking right now. Yep, 1 defensive tackle taken. So now in day 2, round 2, you've got all of these first round grades on these other players. You think that they're not more first round grades on defensive tackles out there? There was only 1 taken. You don't think there's first round grades on guards that were out there? Not 1 guard was taken. Not 1 linebacker. This is a tastemaker's draft. What's your flavor? What you like? You want French vanilla? You want butter pecan? Huh? Yo, I love it. Watching these teams overreach on these quarterbacks. Bo Nix ain't even no guarantee he's going to play. It allows for a team like Baltimore to come back in day 2, right? Because this is the law of unintended consequences, right? Your second round picks start to get a little squirrely. The order of the team's picking's not the same. In theory, it should be, right? But it's not, because people have been willing and dealing all over the place. New York Giants should have had a 39th pick, but they traded away to Carolina. Right? Like the Commanders have the 4th and 8th pick in the second round. All those people that said that they reached for Jaden Daniels, that they made the wrong choice for Jaden Daniels, guess what they get to do? They get to come back and in the second round have the 4th and the 8th pick. You know what they're going to be able to get? Anything they want. Anything you want it, that's the way you need it. Anything you want it. I'm pretty sure it's any way you want it, but you get what I'm saying, right? Any way you want it, that's the way you need it. Sometimes I'm like, I need a producer just to be able to see their face when I start breaking out and singing. I need somebody. Well, I need a producer that's like right there in front of me. You know what I'm saying? Like I need someone that's right there so that I can see their face when I start doing stuff like singing in the middle. Any way you want it, that's the way you need it. I may be singing some karaoke tonight. I feel like singing. And I'm excited because there's so much. Man, listen. Like, y'all can say what you want, baby. You can say what it is. But it's so good to see people put their stuff out, put their work out there, and have it stand on its own, right? Have it stand on its own. We're not out here worried about what people think, how it's going to be perceived. Nope. This is what I think. This is how I think. Deal with it. I said there were 11 tackles that I thought could start. I stand by it. What about all those guards? Some teams are really going to be able to help themselves today. All they have to do is be patient. All they have to do is be patient. Hey, guess what? Giants fans and Cowboys fans and Washington Commanders fans, you still got to deal with Philly. Philly took a corner yesterday. Got better in the secondary. Guess what a weakness was for them last year? The secondary. The secondary. It was a weakness for them last year. Guess what they have in the second round? 2 more draft picks. They've re-signed both of their stud wide receivers. Everybody's happy. The quarterback's happy. They got the running back. They got a tight end. The offensive line is pretty much intact. They already had a succession plan for when Jason Kelce decided that he was going to hang it up. But do not be surprised if you see them go offensive line. Why? Because all of this talent is just out here hanging out. Centers, guards, tackles for the taking. Defensive tackles, linebackers. Hey, guess what Philly could use? Some interior linebackers. Guess what's all still on the board? What hasn't been touched? What's virgin out here? Interior linebackers. People should be afraid. The teams that shouldn't have the equity that they have, they got it. They got it. Houston has 2 second-round picks. The Houston that just added an elite level wide receiver after having their wide receiver core break out. Notice I didn't say a wide receiver breakout. The entire wide receiver core broke out. And now they have 2 second-round picks in order to continue to get jiggy and continue to. What do they need? What do they need? DBs? Hey, it was only 2 cornerbacks taken. There was only 2 cornerbacks taken off the board. So if they need DBs, guess what they're getting? They're getting DBs. Europe. That's what they're doing. Yo, how can you not get excited about this if you are a fan of football? We don't have to guess anymore. We're getting real answers now. Buffalo starts off the second round. Buffalo's got 2 picks. You better believe Buffalo's getting a wide receiver. Why? Because Buffalo ain't got no wide receivers. I'm just happy. Look, I'm just happy. I'm looking forward to tonight. And of course, I'll be monitoring to see who the Giants take at 47. I'll be writing about it. I'll be talking about it. It'll be on Giants Country. Make sure that you read those articles. We'll be back right after this with Chris James of Chopping It Up with CJ. This is Talk Spicy on the Riptide Media Network.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/one small step, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/one small step. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woohoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. I can't talk, apparently. Riptide Media Network. And make sure that you download the 102.9 The Game app if you want to follow and listen to us anywhere that you are, whether you're on the East Coast, West Coast, over in France, Dubai, the Sandro Pay, wherever it might be at, that you want to, waste your time on your vacation and listen to a goofball like me. I really do appreciate it. I'm gonna bring on a guy who I love, one of my really good friends. And I was telling you guys in the first segment that I think the one thing I like about my friend group, and I don't have many friends, and it's not a woe it's me or anything like that, is because I define friend by experience. Like I've got to have gone through some things with you in order for you to be my friend. We can be friendly, we can be acquaintances, but I've had to go through some things. I've had to see you go through some things. You got to know some stuff that only you and I are ever going to know about, or maybe you, I, and one or two other people. And that's this man for me, Chris James of the Chopping It Up with CJ podcast. CJ, I just want to start by telling you I love you, my guy.
I love you too, man.
I'm really trying to normalize it, because I know that as men we're so machismo, we can't stop and say we love people sometimes, but have genuine love for you. And I was telling the people before I had you on, I said the reason that I like my friend group is that there's no group think. There's no sheepishness in this group. Like everybody has their own opinions. Everybody moves to the beat of their own drummer. And when it comes to this draft stuff and it comes to this football thing, if you do get us all in alignment on something, there's a pretty good chance that person's going to be special. Like if all of us are fully lockstep on something, there's a good chance that it's going to be a transformational player, because we all have our own little, about it. So I appreciate you joining me. I know you've been killing on the Chopping Up with CJ podcast. You released your final mock draft. I want to know your mock draft, because I know you don't do a bunch of them, because who the hell's got time for all of that? But
yeah.
I want to know after day one. Well, no, let me rewind. Yesterday I talked about it. I said there's some people who are draft analysts, and then there's some people who are player evaluators, right? And so like a guy like Daniel Jeremiah, the fact that his 150, he's getting 80% of them that are drafted in the top 150 is impressive, but it's not really because he's an insider and he kind of knows what these GMs are thinking, or he knows what these GMs are thinking because they told him. So when you're a talent evaluator, you're just looking at who you think is the best talent. If given the opportunity, if everything is equal, who's going to be better? So when you put your draft together, are you keeping that in mind, or are you going and saying, I'm trying to play GM and place these players where I think they're going to go?
It's a great question. But I do want to circle back real quick. It's funny, we work in the industry, football, where, to your point, there's a lot of machismo, bravado, but there's people who will literally say, the biggest fanatics, I love this team. Well, why can't you say that about a person who actually does something for your life, in your life, without some sort of needing a clarifier and this, that, and the other? Man, you care about someone, you love them, it should not matter. So I just wanted to get that out of the way, because that doesn't make a lot of sense to me in alignment with the amount of people who have literally told me that they love a football team that does not care about them other than getting them to buy their merchandise and show up to their games.
But the merch is fire, though.
The merch is fire. But to your point, so I even say this on a lot of my mock drafts. We, not just myself, you, Brandon, all of us, Tehran, we've tried to figure out what the best approach is to mock drafts. And I've rested on the following, because at one point I didn't allow trades. At another point, I played the GM. If I'm doing a mock draft for the fans, I try to use what I have to make an educational or an educated guess about what's going to be the outcome in a draft. This team will probably trade up here. If that happens, this will happen. I do that. I will make mention, though, when those picks are made, if you listen to my show, that guy's probably going here. I don't have him in the first round. In fact, he's a fourth rounder to me. I'll make those types of comments because I think context does matter. If you're evaluating the players and their possible talent on the next level, you have to consider that. And also, I will do mock drafts where I'm the GM if that's the agreed upon. So if 5 of us are in a room and we're switching back and forth, you're doggone right. I'm using my rankings, not someone else's, because that's for me and us.
So it's interesting, because I like that. I'm not a big trades in a mock draft, because now you're trying to predict the unpredictable, right? Like nobody was sitting here with all of the mock drafts that we came out. So many people had the Giants moving up in it. So many people had somebody coming into 3, the Patriots moving out of 3, somebody getting a 2. We don't know. We're all just out here guessing when it comes to that. But when you're drafting a pick, you can at least say, I believe I'm going to go with this pick because this person fits this scheme, fits this team's identity. You can give legitimate reasoning for it. But with like a trade, you're just like, oh, no, they're gonna trade. They should trade. Like if I was doing a mock draft based off of like what I think the Giants should do, if I'm the GM, it's a trade every time, and it's not one, it's two. Like it's 2 trades back in this past draft or in this past first round. I would have traded back twice. And in fact, I did 2 mock drafts. One of them I did trades in, and I traded down twice and got a first rounder for next year and picked up a bunch of second rounders and just murdered the situation in day 2. So when you look at the guys that you had as I need them right now. Like, I don't care what team it is. I don't care what I need this player on this team right now. What stands out to you? Like what players were you saying this player needs to be here right now?
The one that I really would have liked to see happen, because I think that they have a young franchise quarterback and that offense would have utilized a 3-headed monster near the goal line with an exceptional running back, like I said, a young quarterback, and now you have a tight end who can also carry the ball. I needed the Colts to go get Brock Bowers. That's what I needed to happen, and I didn't see it happen. So that was the one that bothered me more than any of the first-round picks that happened.
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like Brock Bowers to Vegas.
It doesn't fit. I understand why they did it. They said, hey, best player on the board. But that's not what you do. So it's unless they're changing a lot up and they expect Gardner Minshew to throw 300 passes on checkdowns to Brock Bowers, I don't see it being as helpful as other pieces or a trade down.
And that is true. We really don't know what this team is going to look like. We're only just assuming based off of what we saw the second half of the season from Las Vegas when Pierce took over. But in reality, now that he's getting an opportunity to put his thumbprints on things, he might be changing a lot. And so maybe this offense is going to look different. I'm just like, man, I would have loved to see him in the Colts. I would have loved to, like how do you, like, that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot to deal with that monster behind center. And then you add another monster flanked off to the side or flexed out one-on-one, on the weak side, or coming in motion and taking a jet sweep. Like, who's got tight ends taking jet sweeps?
No one.
Brock Bowers. That's who. You got Brock Bowers out there, like full alien mode, taking jet sweeps. What did you think about the fact that 6 quarterbacks went in the first round? I thought it was ridiculous. I'm just going to flat out say it.
So,
and you know how much I don't like quarterbacks in the first round, but 6 of them?
Yeah. So if you had 6 first-round quarterbacks, I wouldn't mind it. The one thing that I did like, I think they went in the order that they should have gone in. If you're going to draft those 6 guys, they went in the correct order. Because, I mean, there's Caleb and Jaden Daniels. Boop. There's Drake May. Penix is right there near May because that dude can spin it. But then you get into guys that are kind of more projects that could in 5 years not even be on their team, with J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix, especially Nix. But
yeah,
having 6 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks in a draft that we've talked about it, ridiculous at wide receiver, ridiculous at offensive tackle. You have a couple of defensive linemen that could go eat. You have several cornerbacks that profile as shutdown corners, and Bo Nix went 12th.
I was just surprised because you had 8 offensive tackles going the first round. I said I'm on record as saying that I believe there are 11 in this draft that could step on the field and start day one. 11. 7 of them went in the first round. 8 went in the first round. You had 7 wide receivers go in the first round. You had 6 edge rushers. Like, that's almost 3/4 of the, and then the rest of it you spent on quarterbacks. Like,
yeah,
like like in my mind, this is what I'm thinking. If I'm the Buffalo Bills, right, and I have the number 1 pick in the second round, if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I can't use that pick. I got to trade that pick. I've got to get Washington, Houston, like I've got Philly. I've got to get one of these teams with Buffalo. I'm sorry, no, I said Buffalo. I've got to get one of these teams with 2 second-round picks to trade me their 2 second-round picks for my top of the second-round pick, because there's so much talent here. You can't bleed out of it before you get to me. And now I get 3 second-round picks where I can pick 3 starters, not 3 rotational guys, 3 starters. Like when the Baltimore Ravens are able to get Wiggins
just sitting there,
they don't have to do anything. You're not even gonna make them work. When you let the Kansas City Chiefs, which by the way, all right, so let's get into this. Buffalo, who's traded away their all-world wide receiver because he's tired of this. He's tired of this stuff over here. Y'all are managing the quarterback so that he doesn't make turnovers, which means that you're managing him from throwing me the ball in coverage, which I've been pretty good at coming up with. Get me out of here. Get me to somebody where they trust him to throw the ball whenever. So now you have no wide receivers of real legitimate like ilk. And you're sitting there, and the fastest thing to ever come through the combine is right there for the taking with your ridiculous cannonball arm of a quarterback. And you trade him to the one place that is your kryptonite. You can't get past these dudes. It's him. And he needs a wide receiver because his number 1 wide receiver might not be around for a while. What are you thinking if you're the Buffalo Bills? Like, if you're a Bills fan right now, what's your thought process today?
Well, if I were a Bills fan, I'd be a tortured soul. So luckily I'm not one, because I have a bunch of friends who are Bills fans. They're very loyal fans, but a lot of them are realists. They're like, I don't know. And the Bills just slapped them in the face. The slap in the face, to your point, it wasn't trading out of that pick. I don't agree with them taking Xavier Worthy at that pick. I believe, to your point, of picking up more capital. It's who they traded with.
That's my point.
You did this for them to get Mahomes. Now I don't care what's on the board, but you better have an offer that knocks me out of the park for me to say, you're my nemesis. I'm going to help you in some way. So when they traded, I didn't care who the pick was. I'm like, Buffalo lost. Just period. I thought it was going to be A.D. Mitchell, but it was the other Texas receiver, and that's even worse.
Yeah, because it's like when you look at the Kansas City's offense, as much as we've said, yo, Mahomes has just figured out another way, they're missing that guy. They're missing that. I'm just going to blow the top off this thing and I can catch, right? Because they've got a couple guys who can blow the top off, but it's a 50-50 proposition if they're going to catch the ball.
Right.
I'm going to blow the top off this. Oh, and I'm actually a pretty good wide receiver too. Like, you can't let him get that guy. Like, you can't help him.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because again, it'd be different if they had a solid structure offense, right? We have an X on this side and a Z on this side, and we don't do anything. You gave the dude who runs plays like corn dog, the ultimate corn dog player, right? As long as hands aren't put on Xavier Worthy at the line, he's not going to allow him to have hands put on him. He's going to be running free in space, knows how to adjust to the ball when it's thrown, actually catches it when it's happening. Some inconsistency drops, but guess what? Tyreek Hill had inconsistency drops for 3 years. Who cared?
Who cares? I think drops are the most overrated thing people talk about in receiver play. If you actually pull up the percentages of the top 20 receivers, like them percentages ain't them things ain't fly. Like, everybody ain't out here catching 70-75% of the passes. there are more people catching 55% of the passes than there are people catching 70%. The difference is that you're going to continue to target them because they are him when they catch the ball. And so it's like giving a guy like, oh, well, he can't get off the line. He's never going to have to. They're going to run him in motion right behind Kelsey. Kelsey's going to pick off so that he can get a free release. And then Kelsey's going to run his just get open route while that guy goes deep. And the moment your safety is looking at Kelsey with flat foot, that's a touchdown because the ball's going to already be gone. Like, you can't let the elite of the elite get a hold of other elite players that have a skill set they need. I'm concerned, right? Because with all of the offensive linemen that were taken, there's still more, well, especially offensive tackle, with all the offensive tackles that were taken, there are still more offensive tackles out there that could walk in and start day one. But every guard is on the board. Are you really going to let Baltimore roll into another elite level offensive lineman in the second round?
They will. That's what they do.
It's chess and checkers. I gave this analogy yesterday. I wanted to see what you think about it. I said that, I've always talked about like bad teams staying bad, right? So of course Jacksonville took another wide receiver. Like, of course they took another wide receiver in the first round because bad teams stay bad because you can't figure out the wide receiver is not the problem. Right? You lost one wide receiver, but your wide receiving core was pretty decent last year, the year before you got that wide receiver back. So wide receiver is not the problem. They took another wide receiver. I said the bad teams go out and they buy things that don't appreciate. They buy cars, they buy jewelry. I said the teams that get it, the teams that are really good, they buy houses, they buy property, and they watch it appreciate. And when you devalue the Corvette, they go, oh, it's still a Corvette. I'll take it. And they get it for considerably less than what you paid for the Corvette when it was brand new. And because you valued it and you thought it was worth it, you didn't put a lot of miles on the Corvette. And so now they're getting a like new Corvette for little to no money. Like, that was my analogy. It's like when you see what's going on here, what's the team right now? First round, you see what they do. What's the team that you see right now that you go, they just understand this draft better than other teams understand it?
If I had to think about a team that seems to do this with also staying pat, I like what the Pittsburgh Steelers do in general. I like that they bring in guys that fit their mold. They're always picking in like 20, 22, something like that. Bring in offensive linemen if they need to. They bring in defensive linemen. So they bring in those guys that will assist with the close to the ball, the structure on both sides, right? And then to your point, the guys that are kind of Corvette-y. Now there's some elites, right? But this team probably has the best hit rate in the second round on wide receivers I've ever seen in my life. So I fully expect them to somehow go get a dude who's going to be a true number one receiver. You'll have two number one receivers now for no reason. And guess what they didn't do? Jump up, waste capital. They took him where they needed to take him in the second round. So Pittsburgh, I think, does a really good job of staying pat and still getting high-level talent in. It's probably why they never pick in the top 10.
The Steelers got the football game plan number one rated offensive tackle with the 20th pick, and he was the fifth tackle off the board.
All right. I'm a Saints fan, just for you all who are not familiar. So I'm going to go ahead and say this. When the Saints were up, I wasn't mad at the selection, but I wanted Fatani from a personal level. I think he's a little bit better than Fuaga, but if you want to replace a right tackle with a dude who's nasty, I was good with the pick because it wasn't a miss. But yeah, the Steelers stayed pat and got the best tackle in the draft, or a dude who I had tied with Joe Alt as the best tackle in the draft.
Yeah, I had him up there with Alt. I wasn't mad at the people who had Alton as number one. I was a little bit miffed with the people who think Fashanu is like that, because I don't see a guy who is that. I see a guy who has potential to be that. And I'm sorry, at offensive line, I don't give a damn about your potential. I really don't. If you come into the NFL and you are what you were in college, which was a dominant force, I don't really care if you got any room for growth. I don't. Like, I'm drafting linemen to start right now. I'll draft a cornerback that I need to stash for 2 years. I'll draft a wide receiver. I'll draft a linebacker that I might need to stash for 2 years. An edge rusher. They need to figure it out. I need to put some weight on them. But at offensive line, I expect you to come in and be ready to roll right now. And so, like, if I'm any team, like all of these names that I can't pronounce really, really well, I want Fatanu. Like, I want the guy who looks like he wants to beat you up every single time he puts his hands on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was your biggest surprise? Well, let me take it back. Outside of Michael Penix Jr. going to Atlanta after Atlanta spent $100 or $250 million on a quarterback, like, what's your most surprising pick of the first round?
The most surprising pick, I don't think, is a bad pick. I think where they got him might have been too high. It was taking Ricky Pearsall in the first round for the 49ers. I think he fits well on their team, especially if they're looking to replace Brandon Ayuk. But taking him there with guys that have higher upside, it felt like a bit of a reach, especially when, again, that run on offensive line is going on. That right side of the line, right tackle, wasn't getting the job done, in my opinion. So they might have panicked when Dallas took Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. So maybe that's why they did what they did. But I thought it was a bit of a reach. I didn't think it was a horrible pick, but a bit of a reach.
I didn't think it was a horrible pick. I'm not down on Ricky Pearsall, but Xavier Leggett was still on the board.
Yeah, and he profiles to what you like to do, right?
That's what I was about to say. It's not that I think that Xavier Leggett is a better pure receiver than Pearsall. I actually think Pearsall is a better pure receiver than Leggett. I don't actually think it's close, right? But Xavier Leggett fits the mold of what you're doing. You're playing bully ball over there, right? That's what I thought. Here's a bully. Oh, by the way, you've seen what the bully does at wide receiver in division, because Seattle has one. Like, you had the chance to get that, and you went with Ricky Pearsall. I was like, oh, okay. I was surprised that and now that I'm talking to you, his name literally just popped out of my head. Iowa cornerback.
Oh, Cooper DeJean?
Yes. It's easy to say that he didn't go in the first round because of injury, right? It's easy to say that. I think if he wasn't white, he goes in the first round.
I mean,
I don't know how this guy does not go in the first round.
It wasn't luckily a money bet, but I made a bet with someone, because if I had another team that made a selection that I didn't personally agree with, this team at 25, I thought was going to take him. I thought the Packers were going to take him and play him everywhere. My comp for him, it's not a 1-to-1, but people he can't play man. The dude has his game so heady that I don't need him to be sticky. I need him to do his job and take away a portion of the field. He reminds me of Marcus Peters with the way that he knows what's going to go on. And he can just be there. You're like, how the heck did he know the ball was going there? Well, he's smarter than you about this. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. The safety talk is, he needs to move the safety. It's insane.
It's crazy.
You can avoid a safety. You can't avoid a corner, right? So even if he's not the dude, you say, go shut that receiver down. You know what he's going to do? That side of the field is taken care of. So I can run some things and some gains to the other side to force people to try to throw the ball his way. Because guess what he can do? Break on the
Pick
ball.
up.
Yep.
I was thinking about this last night as I watched, Arnold get selected. And I know a lot of people are really high on Arnold, and I think he's a good cornerback. And Quinn Mitchell, I know he ran well and all that, but are they really more productive than DeJean? Or are we sitting here just saying, okay, this profiles the same way that we look at Drake May, and JJ McCarthy, and people are like, well, they profile more as the thing we're used to seeing at the position, and they got the bump the same way that Drake. I'm still, if Drake May's name was Joe Milton, he would be a 3rd round pick. I'm on that, but I digress. Like, is it really just that simple? Because I didn't see more production out of those guys than I saw out of Cooper DeJean.
So for me, it was pretty easy. So I do like Quinn Mitchell more as that sticky cover guy than I do DeJean. When I do my final grading after I do my, I look at different factors. I do a floor and a ceiling. So I had a wider range for Quinn Mitchell. 77, that's not a starter, up to 93. I think he could be an elite corner because of what he can offer with that sticky one-on-one coverage shadow guy. DeJean had a much higher floor, but not as high of a ceiling. Terrion Arnold had a higher floor. They both had 80s. The problem is Terrion Arnold, to me, he profiles more as like a big slot corner. I don't think that he has the hips that people were talking about. It's his physical. He's almost like an upgraded version of Brian Branch, and not by much. Like, that's what he looks like to me, instead of this corner who's going to just shut things down. He's not a Marshawn Lattimore or someone like that. To me, he is a big slot corner, and he'll be nasty in Detroit because they hopefully will use him more that way. But if they expect him to just lock down one side of the field, they're sadly mistaken, in my opinion.
Hey, CJ, you have time to just hang out with us a little bit more. I got to go to this break, but I want to come back. I got a couple more questions for you.
Can do.
Absolutely. Let's take a break. We'll come right back. This is Talk Spicy on the Riptide Media Network.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And, with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have anybody to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, Riptide Media Network. Make sure that you download the 102.9 the game, excuse me. I keep wanting to say the fan for some reason, but it's the 102.9 the game app, and check out everything that we've got going on. After I'm finished here at 6:00, Bleacher Brothers, I think it's a best of Bleacher Brothers or something like that. I am not 100% sure, but normally the Bleacher Brothers would come on after me, and after I'm done, I am going to be in full on draft mode. Loved what the Giants did with the 6th pick yesterday, getting Malik Neighbors. I've got Chris James back here real quick. What did you think about the Neighbors pick? Were you surprised that the Giants didn't like force a quarterback at that spot?
I was surprised, but they made the right decision in my opinion. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way. I had Malik Neighbors as my number 1 receiver on the board.
Me too.
It wasn't a huge gap or anything like that. I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, a bust or anything, not even close to that. I just think Malik Neighbors offers you more from an explosion standpoint and also the higher end on the talent. His ceiling's higher, in my opinion. So they did the smart thing. Go and get yourself the right guy, the guy who is virtually can't miss. Don't go after a quarterback who's just a better version of your current quarterback. Now, people forget about this, and it's this odd concept. If you put talent on your team that's high level, you don't need to force other pieces in. There's a draft next year, and if the Giants aren't good for whatever reason, they can go get another quarterback. Daniel Jones's money will be further off the books, less dead. But let's say he's actually good. I don't expect it, but let's say he's actually good. Why was he good? You got him a real deal receiver, an elite talent at wide receiver to help him, grow a little bit more and become better.
So, and because we're in lockstep on that, right? But one thing I believe is I actually think that the ceiling on Harrison Jr. is higher than the ceiling on Neighbors, because I think Neighbors has figured out how to separate better than Harrison Jr. has figured out how to separate. And so I don't know if it's schematics, right? Like I can't tell if it's the scheme on why Harrison Jr. seems to, you never see him breaking away from anybody, right? Like I don't know if it's schematics, but Neighbors has clearly figured that out at an earlier time. But you can't get around the physical measurables of Harrison Jr. And that's why I'm like, if he does get to his ceiling, he could be whatever. But I don't give a damn about your ceiling. I'm trying to see what you are right now. I don't understand this. Like, CJ, I feel like I be taking crazy pills sometimes, man, because I don't understand why so many of these I understand it in basketball, right? You're picking 18 and 19-year-olds in basketball and trying to predict them to be good in 6 years, 5 years, right? But in football, everybody's gone in 6 years, 5 years. The team that you have, like the team that the Denver Nuggets had when they picked Michael Porter Jr., is essentially the same team they've got right now. Minus some other pieces, he was allowed to mature into what he is. The team that they have in New York right now is not the team they had 5-6 years ago.
No.
It's a completely different team. So trying to draft for 5-6 years from now makes no sense. If you're looking at a guy, can he come in right now and get busy? I believe that's the case with Malik Neighbors. I don't feel like that about many of the other receivers in this draft. I feel like they all have something that it's going to depend on where they land on how successful they're going to be. I think Xavier Worthy got the gift, right? He got the gift. But some of these other dudes, they went places, and I ain't going to call them out because why, right? But some of these other dudes...
So with Marvin Harrison Jr., there's a couple of things that I think they're the extra pieces, right? So You're right. it's bothersome to me that Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't separate, but he wins at the top of routes, right? So that's why I say he's definitely the safer pick, but that's why I have him with a higher floor, because worst case to worst, you can't get open. You can still jump up and snag the ball.
Yeah.
But here's the thing that really kind of bothers me, and people were forgetting about this. Marvin Harrison Jr. is almost a full calendar year older than Malik Neighbors. You know who's been training Marvin Harrison Jr. since he could walk? A Hall of Fame wide receiver. So if he hasn't developed that skill yet from a route running standpoint to get open, how is he going to get better?
That's fair.
Malik Neighbors, year over year, who, again, the Hall of Fame game will happen, and then he'll turn 21. Malik Neighbors, year over year, got so much better, and you're like, well, what happened? Well, probably the super soldier serum, but other than that, what really happened is he didn't have the nuance to his game yet. I mean, he was a late recruit for LSU. He's supposed to go to Mississippi State 2 days before signing. They bring him in. So he doesn't even know if he has a real place there. Horrific first real game against Florida State in the Superdome. 2 muff punts, looked terrible. That young man came back the next year and looked like the better elite prospect. That's why I think he has more room for growth, because I think he's just getting his back.
Malik, I've said this, and I've said this a few times, but I'm going to say it with you because I know it'll hit home with you. Malik Neighbors is what everybody thought Kayshon Boutte was supposed to be. He is what everybody thought, like down to the way he plays the game, he is what everyone thought Kayshon Boutte was supposed to be.
And I know you know this because I've said it to you. I've said it to Emory. I said it the night of that first Florida State game. I know he had 390 or whatever receiving in a game the year prior. I don't care. I said, I see a day 3 pick at best.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I see from this guy.
Yep.
And part of it was the way that he comported himself in certain situations on the field. But I didn't see the explosiveness. I didn't see the active hands. This year, Malik Neighbors, that dude had vice grips for hands. And again, he was taking hitches against other NFL caliber players and doing this.
To the crib. And that's where I'm like, I got to have him. Because there's a difference between winning on all 3 levels and then creating the win on all 3. Like if you throw him an outside screen pass, he's looking at it like your defender's at the disadvantage. He doesn't really care if the blockers come.
Mm-hmm.
Like, right? He doesn't care if the blockers come. He's trying to figure out a way to beat that dude regardless of the blockers. If you give him a ball across the middle, which is why I like where he landed, because the Giants low-key do a really good job of the intermediate pass, right? Mostly because Daniel Jones doesn't trust his arm to go deep with things.
Correct.
That's another story. But if you get him the ball while moving in the intermediate, it's probably a touchdown. And then he has this, like, I don't know if it's the way he runs. People used to say this about me when I was a kid, and again, I always like to preface this, people. I'm not saying I'm Malik Neighbors, but I had a way of, because of the way I ran, my stride was so long, it didn't look like I was running fast until all of a sudden I was right up on the DB and it was too late for him to bail and go. And I just ran by people. Like, I did it my entire high school career. I did it my entire college career. People couldn't figure out how, he doesn't look fast. He doesn't play that. He doesn't look that fast when you watch him on film. Well, yeah, because you're seeing me gallop all over the place. And I had someone who's like a mother figure to me, and she says, you look like a deer out there. And if you've ever watched a deer, deers don't look like they're going fast until they're gone. Like, they're just plotting along, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 they're gone. And that's what I feel like when I watch Malik Neighbors. He doesn't look like he's going fast, and then all of a sudden he's 3 steps beyond the safety. Like, people were like, oh, Jaden, I could throw the ball deep too if I was throwing a wide open receivers. And I just go, watch when he threw the ball. Just watch when the ball released from his hand. and it'll tell you everything you need to know about Jaden Daniels because of his trust in what Malik Neighbors is doing.
Yeah, that's completely, well, your point makes sense. And the dude who, the first time I saw it, reminded me of this, and I was a kid. I was in my teens. Randy Moss never looked fast, except he was the fastest person I've ever seen.
Never. I've never seen anybody faster than the dude.
This man would do this all the time. And he'd do it before the DB, he was past him. And the DB is like, what do? I run a 4.3. And Randy Moss is like, I would be sorry, but I'm not. So that's one thing. But man, like, and you know, I'm an LSU guy also, again, from Louisiana.
Yep.
The amount that Jaden Daniels was criticized for having talent on his team, as if we forgot that the following happened. Mac Jones and Tua played with 19 receivers who play in the NFL now. All these guys in Ohio State play with all these receivers who are top. And Joseph Lee Burrow played with a dude who we knew was going to be a top 5 pick at receiver in Jamar Chase, and the best receiver in the game right now in Justin Jefferson, and didn't get the same dings that it seemed like Jaden Daniels was getting because his teammates were talented. Makes no sense. By the way, set efficiency records for throwing the ball down the field. National records.
National efficiency records. This isn't like some, you know, it's laughable. It's really laughable. Day 2. Second round, third round. This is where I believe you build a team in the second and third round. The first round is glamour, if you will. It's but if you hit the second and third round, I know 4th, 5th, 6th, blah, 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 but whatever. The second and third round, you should be getting starters, right? So who is your best day 2 pick? Like if you had a day 2 pick and you said, this is the dude. Who is
All
that?
right, so I'm gonna go to a few positions. We talked about one guy, Cooper DeJean. He's going to start somewhere.
I love that dude.
At the same position, even though he was a late entry on for me at the combine, I got more familiar with him, so I went back and looked. I'm like, this dude is clean. Max Melton, cornerback out of Rutgers.
Yep.
Dude's clean. He could have been a first round pick if this cycle was done a little later for folks. I truly do like the offering from a guy like Edge Cooper, linebacker out of Texas A&M. Dude has no regard for his own body. So if you need a middle linebacker, which people are finally catching on that those dudes are important, that's the type of guy you want to go get. And then you're going to love this one, Ladd McConkey. See, Ladd McConkey is one of those dudes that goes to a roster, and you're like, this dude's not that good until he's cooking you so consistently. And that's why I comped him to Tyler Lockett, because people are like, oh, he's too small. He's not going to be good. Constantly cooking people. And Dwayne Carter also, defensive tackle, if you need a D-tackle. That dude was nothing but active the entire year. Once I got to sit down and look at him, if he played with a team name that was Clemson instead of Duke, he'd have been in the first round.
I like it. I think that for me, Cooper is the guy that I feel like there's a lot of teams out here. They should be targeting him in round 2. And I'm just going to give you a couple, and I want to get your opinion on it.
One
because
guy.
I think was that.
Sorry, I forgot to mention one guy, and this is a perfect fit from an attitude standpoint, and he should be a second-round pick anyway. Spencer Rattler to the Raiders. That would be an immediate upgrade at that quarterback position. They're getting a discount with the second rounder on him, and with the pieces there, that dude can do work. If you like Baker Mayfield, Spencer Rattler is basically Baker Mayfield, except
taller,
not a first-round pick somehow.
Taller and more athletic.
Yep.
Taller, more athletic, like bigger physique, taller, more athletic, maybe a little bit stronger arm, similar accuracy. Yeah, that's a great comp for him. I believe Cooper is my guy, that I think that in day 2, there are teams that absolutely positively need to add him to their roster and plug him in at Mike linebacker, or at least at a middle linebacker next to a Mike linebacker, and get busy. I've got some names. I've got some teams I want to think I want you to tell me what you think about it. The first team that I think he should go to is New York. The Giants with my brain just froze on me.
You still have Bobby Okereke?
Yeah. So with Okereke, right? They've been rolling him out there with a dude that I like, but he doesn't make tackles. Like he misses a lot of tackles. Like they just roll off of him. But if you put a physical specimen next to Okereke that actually understands linebacker play and, like you said, has zero regard for self-health, like he's not making business decisions. I think he could be great as the Robin to Okereke's Batman.
No, I understand what you're saying there. What I feel like is a perfect fit because they lost a guy and people were like, "Oh no, what are you gonna do with the loss of this guy?" And he went to a division rival. But I think if they got him in the second round, be an excellent fit. Baltimore Ravens.
That was my next team.
Cancel Christmas.
Yeah. You put him next to the best linebacker in the game, and it's a wrap. Because he can do all the things that the guy that they lost could do, only he's smart.
Yeah.
Sorry. I would be sorry, but I don't really care. Like, if I see you do it, it is what it is. I don't know.
Patrick Queen, when he was coming out, I'm not trying to judge him. I remember the 2020 Combine. We talked about it. Patrick Queen was asked to do something he couldn't do, and Roquan Smith allowed him to do what he does best, which is just go run around and do stuff.
Which is why I didn't understand why I get why Patrick Queen would try to go and get the biggest bag he could, but I would have tried to play the long game and just stay kind of the dude next to the dude and live a long, fruitful existence blitzing without having to worry about run fits or reading and diagnosing plays or any of that stuff that you need to do as a quality linebacker. Philadelphia is another team that I think would be a great fit for Cooper. They got 2 picks, by the way, 2 picks in the second round. I think that he would be a great fit in Philadelphia for what they do.
See, and I have Philly taking another linebacker, not one of those picks, most likely. He'll probably go in the third round, but taking Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who can run around and get some things done. He'll probably slip a little bit.
Better hands than people give him credit for, too.
Yeah, he operates really well on both sides of the ball. He fits well against the run, but also he can cover. He can play outside linebacker, but inside's probably where you should live for most teams.
Yeah, I think it's underrated. Like playing him because most of these defenses now, right, operate out of the nickel most of the times because of how dynamic the outside talent is and the slot talent is. Most teams aren't putting 3 linebackers on the field. So your 2 linebackers on the field are essentially inside linebackers, even though one might be considered like a weak side linebacker. He's essentially playing an inside linebacker. And so like a guy like Trotter, who I like a lot, I think that he has a great fit. Obviously has a pedigree. I really like his hands though. Like he can snatch on some balls. Like I really pause. It sounds crazy. That's wild. Snatch on some balls. What are we doing out here? What are we doing out here in these streets, CJ?
I'm just gonna let that one slide by.
You know what? We're gonna let it go. But I think that those 3 teams, the teams, Baltimore, you named it, New York, Philadelphia, I think all 3 of those teams would be a great landing spot for Cooper. I'm interested to see where he goes. I would have said Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay re-signed my guy, so we're all safe there. But I wouldn't be mad at a Tampa Bay grabbing him up as well. I'll get you out of here on this because I know you got better things to do than just talk to me all day. New Orleans, they have always been able to navigate the salary cap better than most teams, right? You hear these wild things about them being like 40 million over the salary cap, and then all of a sudden they're signing like free agents, right? when you look at the Saints and what they need to do in order to get back to the level that they're used to, it's not like they're a bum team, right? What's the couple positions that you want to see them attack in day 2, whether that is at 45 where they're picking in the second round, or later on in the draft, maybe in the 3rd round or in the 4th round, some pieces that, well, actually I don't think they have a 3rd round pick, but some pieces that you believe would help this team elevate back to the status that they've been for as long as we've been adults.
Yeah, so one of 2 things needs to happen with me for the Saints. If there's an elite level guy, let's say, and I'm just using his name again, Cooper DeJean falls down to him.
Mm-hmm.
Not that's a luxury pick, but I can understand taking him, right? Because they want to move on from Marshawn Lattimore. Even though it hasn't happened, that's what they keep acting like, messing around with that guy, which is unacceptable. I actually prefer for them to trade down because they have needs that have been put in front of them. Offensive line's a need. They have interior defensive line needs. So I'd love if they traded down, got 2 high 3rd round pick caliber players by trading around, and go and get like a Dwayne Carter to play next to Brian Brzee. And then obviously they need to get offensive line, but they have like 4 5th round picks, I think 4 or 5. You've already got 1 elite lineman. Now you need to get guys that work well around the structure you're trying to build with that new offense that they're bringing in. But if we want to be real, we're not going to get back to the glory until that quarterback position plays better, whether it's Derek Carr stepping his game up immensely or us replacing Derek Carr. So that's what I would hope, is if he's on the board and it's the 3rd round they traded down, and for some weird reason the Raiders didn't take him, I'd want them to take Spencer Rattler. Let him sit there for a year. Let Derek Carr's contract go, and if he doesn't prove to be the guy, guess what? You wasted a 3rd round pick on a quarterback. But if Derek Carr's not getting the job done, Spencer, year 2 is you.
And I'd be remiss if I got you out. If I let you leave without talking about this. We all know that Jameis Winston is a national treasure, right? We know that Jameis Winston is America's quarterback. And he did something that I thought was really, really smart. In the offseason, he had some options, and he chose to go to Cleveland to back up Deshaun Watson. And the idea, I think, from him was, I'm going to be the starter here for the first part of this year while Deshaun Watson comes back from injury. But he has made no mistakes about it. He's let it be known, this is Deshaun Watson's team. I'm just shepherding until he gets back. Like Jameis Winston, with all of that receiving talent in Cleveland, and an offensive line that's competent, and a running game that's competent, and a quarterback that understands how to utilize those things, how good can you see him being in that role? And even though we know it's going back to Deshaun Watson, is that his best road back to a starting job in the NFL?
So I'm going to start here with Jameis Winston, because there's a lot of people who I talk to, whether they're Tampa Bay fans and they dislike Jameis Winston, or other folks who are like, Jameis can't play. Off the top of my head, and you can fact check me, I believe Jameis Winston was born on January 6th of 1994. So he just turned 30 this year. So it's not like Jameis is Joe Flacco and 38 or whatever and out the door. He did the correct thing. He went to a team that was looking for a backup quarterback, right? In a system that can utilize his talents. Heavy run-based play action, drive the ball down the field. That's Jameis Winston all day. And yes, it's his best way back to a starting job, because he gets to play in a situation that is a win-win for him. The win-win is you're probably going to start early in the season because Deshaun Watson might not be ready. So if you play well, teams will be looking. But number 2, if Deshaun Watson is not getting things done the right way in some respects, there is a lot of vitriol out there for him. Guess who there's not anymore? Jameis Winston. And it'll be interesting to see the dynamic of how people call for Jameis if Deshaun's struggling. I think Jameis went into the win-win situation of all win-win situations for him after leaving New Orleans. And I'm wishing good things for him because that dude did nothing in New Orleans but give his all and do a lot of stuff in the community. He was beloved down there.
Yeah, and I still don't understand. For the life of me, I won't understand why New Orleans, or I shouldn't say New Orleans, why Dennis Allen, right? Like why he was so dead set against giving Jameis Winston a real legitimate opportunity to play quarterback. I'll never understand it, but he's not a good coach, so I don't have to understand it. You know, sometimes just bad coaches do stupid stuff. CJ, I appreciate it. Make sure you check out his podcast, Chopping It Up with CJ. What do you have coming down the pipe for us?
Well, I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff on the draft, doing a draft recap on the Chopping It Up with CJ podcast. You can find it on Apple Pod. You can find it on Spotify. It's Chopping It Up with, it's the W with the slash and the purple background. Also, going to be doing fantasy football stuff over this next few weeks, getting that ramp back up because there's people starting Dynasty League, so look out for that. You can also find me when the season starts, if you're in the tri-state area of New York, on CW Picks 11, doing fantasy football stuff up there. And I'll just be jumping on stuff with folks that I adore and respect for their football knowledge and as people, like Gene or with Emery or other folks as well. So just keep an eye out and you can find me. And that's my Twitter handle /X. I refuse to call it just X.
I keep trying to make the full-on switch over to just saying X, but I keep dropping back into Twitter. At CJ Florida 9 on X. Make sure you check him out. That is Chris James. That is my brother. I appreciate you, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, Gene.
Hey, stay tuned. Afterwards, I get you out of here and I get you ready for day 2 of the NFL draft.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute?
When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance, care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you.
You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Shout out to all of the people over at Riptide Media. Make sure you stay tuned after this. Bleacher Brothers come to you. Yo, I really just love having conversations with my guys. And again, Chris James, if you don't follow him at CJ Florida 9, is one of the best that's doing it. Again, an original thinker. He's not out here giving you the information that he got from whomever the national dude is. He does his work himself. He puts in the time. He is a very, very, very intelligent man, and he gives you legitimate insight from somebody who has played the game and someone who's been intimately involved in the game, but also someone who understands analytics at an extremely high level. That's why he's so good at fantasy football. So if you want really good fantasy football content and you want to make some great picks, you want to check out my guy CJ. New York Giants fans, I have a bone to pick with you. It is not because I don't like you, or I don't respect you, or I don't have like a reverence for you, because I really do. I like you, New York Giants fans. Every time I meet you guys, it's like, oh, you guys are like, you're good people. You're cool. You're fly. You're fun to hang out with. You may not know how to handle your liquor as well as you think you do, but other than that, I like you guys. But you don't tell the truth a lot, especially when it comes to your Giants. So, like, one of my biggest issues is that there's this weird love-hate relationship with Daniel Jones. I've never quite understood it, because the proof of the pudding is in the tasting. Yet, every time I'm hearing people talk today, all I hear is, well, you know, Daniel Jones has never played with a wide receiver one before. Daniel Jones has never played with a wide receiver the caliber of Malik Neighbors before. Daniel Jones has never. Daniel Jones, it's 6 years, people. Daniel Jones is not going to play with the caliber of running back that he's had for the past 5 years. Right or wrong? 6 years. I don't know. Right? He's not going to play with a Saquon Barkley level running back. Is that going to be the thing now? Is that going to be what you hold on to? Is that the next excuse? Hey, I'm not out here trying to tell you that Darius Slayton is a top 32 wide receiver, although I could argue he's probably a top 32 wide receiver, right? I'm not here to argue with you about it. It is what it is, right? Stats. But Darius Slayton has never played with elite level quarterback play. So how do we actually know that Darius Slayton is not a guy who could elevate to a wide receiver one status? Oh, well, because he hasn't been able to do it, and a wide receiver, a legitimate wide receiver one would get it done regardless of the quarterback. Okay, name one. Name one who gets the level of targets that he gets who's able to turn those targets into better numbers. Oh, with a quarterback who does not want to throw him the ball when he's doing the thing he does best, which is run by defensive backs. You guys lie all the time. You can just say, hey, yo, Daniel Jones has not proven to be good. He's proven that he's a mediocre quarterback. Now, with the collection of talent that he has, can he ascend to a level? Can he ascend to a level where he can be an upper echelon, a top half of the or a top third of the football atmosphere, the NFL quarterbacking? People out there saying that he's got to throw for 30-something touchdowns in order to. I don't think he's got to do that. I don't think he has to throw for 30-something touchdowns. I think he needs to have 30-something touchdowns in total. I think it has to be an impressive 30-something touchdowns. I think he has to be able to go for over 4,000 yards, especially when I don't know if the run game is going to be what. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know. But if he, see, here's the beauty of it, right? The Giants are not signing up for a third contract from Daniel Jones, regardless of how good he plays. So, if he plays out of his mind next year, cool. We'll just bring you back for another year. Most of your money has dissipated by then. So now you'd be underpaid. But it's cool. We're not giving you another contract. And if you want another contract, we'll just trade you. Oh, we not gonna pay you. Because at that point, the Giants now have the power. He's under contract. And if he doesn't play, it doesn't hurt them that much financially to just let him sit out. Go out and get your next quarterback, which you should do anyway after next season. If you don't get him or think you've got him in this draft. I'm so tired of we got to get an elite level quarterback. I just watched them take Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy with top 15 picks. Don't sit here and tell me that you have to take elite level quarterbacks. They're taking mediocre to suspect quarterbacks in the top 15. Low key, the Giants took a mediocre quarterback when they took Daniel Jones. He was mediocre in college. He's been nothing but mediocre in the NFL. Don't try to cherry pick, right? Don't try to cherry pick stuff. Oh, well, Daniel Jones has never had an offensive line that was really, really good. He's got the best left. He's got one of the best left tackles in the game. They keep on putting offensive linemen in front of him that when they leave the Giants, they all thrive. Since his arrival, every offensive lineman that has come through there that's not named Andrew Thomas has flamed out, yet gone somewhere else and got it popping. Y'all remember Hernandez? Y'all loved Hernandez his rookie year. Then his sophomore year, he didn't play that well. And then y'all said that he was too busy doing and then he went somewhere else and started immediately. Remember y'all said that Ziegler was terrible. Y'all got to get better than him. I was one of them. Guess what he did? He left and got busy. He left, went to another team, and was infinitely better. Did he get better or did the quarterback play get better? Did these people get better? Did they get worse? Or did the quarterback play get better? I'd argue, right? I'd argue that the quarterback play got better. And because the quarterback play got better, the offensive lineman looked better. That's a pretty easy one to figure out, right? Quarterback play gets better, offensive lineman gets better. Amen. So I'm tired of hearing, oh, well, he's never had a chance to play with an elite level wide receiver before. When are we going to acknowledge the fact that if you put Darius Slayton on several other teams, he's a 1,000-yard receiver? The man is getting targets as the wide receiver 1, like some wide receiver 3s on team are getting. He's the number 1 receiver on the Giants. Not that he's a wide receiver 1, ladies and gentlemen, but he has been the Giants' wide receiver 1 since he's been here, yet he gets targeted like the wide receiver 3 on other good teams. So imagine if he got to go and be the wide receiver 2 or the wide receiver 3 on another team. I could argue right now that if he goes to Kansas City, he's 1,200-yard receiver. If he goes to the Bengals, 1,200-yard receiver. Well, if he goes to the Bengals, maybe 1,000-yard receiver. Pressing 1,000. If he goes and replaces replaces Diggs in Buffalo, over 1,000-yard receiver. For sure. Don't believe me? Y'all keep playing these games where y'all keep saying, oh, well, the wide receiver room is crowded. Who's the wide receiver room crowded with? Last time I checked, you need 4 wide receivers to be good in a 4 wide receiver set. And nobody, and I mean nobody, that's not named Malik Neighbors, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, and Wan'Dale Robinson should be getting legitimate minutes for the Giants. Get that Isaiah stuff out of here. I don't want to hear it. Like, there are people who are dudes, who are dogs, who are beasts. Then there are people who are good. Then there are people who have like really good qualities. And then there are people that you like. And just because you like him doesn't mean that he's a star or that he should be getting star treatment or that he should be involved in what we're doing when it comes to trying to win football games. That's the problem in New York and in every other fan base where you fall in love with people because of their story or because of the couple good things they did, and you forget he's not that good. That's why you guys were out here with the hand up, right? And was okay without putting Tyrod back out there. And if you had put Tyrod back out there when he was healthy, the Giants may have made the playoffs. Nobody wants to talk about that, though. Nobody wants to acknowledge the fact that you may have blown a playoff berth by putting this guy out here. And for those of you who are listening and not actually watching, I'm putting my fingers together, doing a little Hey, mamma mia. Hey, I got Tommy Cutlets. I got a Maggiano. Right? Like, we were so pumped for the hype of doing something that we thought was fun that we forgot that the purpose was to win games. We forgot that the number one thing is we're trying to win games. The Giants have 2 picks tonight. They have 2 picks. They have a second round and a third round pick. I will be on the scene. Well, I won't be on the scene, but I'll be here with you on social media and everything. And make sure that you catch my articles on giantscountry.com, because I will be here talking about those picks. And right now, I'm going to tell you who I believe they should pick. I think if he drops and you get an opportunity to get a Cooper DeJean, that you take him and you put him in the number 31 jersey just out of spite. And you let him play cornerback. And your defensive coordinator's job is to figure out how to use him best. And you don't have to keep him on the outside. You can let him play in the slot. You can put him back in a deep third situation as a safety. You can play him as a hybrid amoeba defensive back all over the place, the same way you should have been doing with Love, the same thing you were doing kind of and should have kept doing with Xavier McKinney. When you have elite level talents, when they do something at an elite level, that is what you want on your field, right? And then you either got to go defensive tackle or you got to go inside linebacker. And again, I already told you the inside linebacker I want. So if he drops to the third round, you know I'm going to be beating the table for Cooper, because I really and truly believe that's how you build a quality team. You're not adding more receivers. You just spent a bunch of free agent capital on a bunch of offensive linemen, and you already have spent a bunch of capital on a bunch of draft capital on offensive linemen. So now's not the time to keep doing that. You got to allow those guys the opportunity to mature under what you believe is a better offensive line coach than you had before. And now with 3 years, with a third year in the same offense, so you get some continuity of what they're learning. And if it doesn't work, then now you make sweeping changes. But in the second and third round, I would like to see cornerback Cooper DeJean, and I would like to see my guy from Texas A&M, Cooper, come here and sit next to Okereke and wreak havoc all over the NFL. I actually think the Giants are much closer than what a lot of you believe they are. I think they're not close to a championship, but closer to being consistently relevant, consistently in the hunt, consistently in the playoffs, consistently a tough out for anybody that they play. I think they're close. I think they're close. Shout out to everybody who just loves the draft. I have been in love with the draft ever since I was a kid, with my spiral notebook and a pencil, sitting down, writing down every draft pick. If you don't believe me, you don't have to. I used to do it. I loved doing it. It was fantastic for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. When the draft would come on, I would sit down with a spiral notebook. I was kind of a nerd. It is what it is. I would sit down with my spiral notebook and my pencil. I would write the team name down. I'll write the pick name down, the pick number down, the team name, the player, and their position. This was as a kid. The draft pick, the team name, player name, their position. Don't ask me what I was doing with it. I still don't know to this day what I was going to do with this, but I remember several drafts sitting down and doing it. I may have lost touch a little bit when girls became a play, right? And sports, because I did a lot of stuff and I like girls, right? I like women now, but I liked girls when I was a kid. And so I don't know if I did it every single year, but every single year I was right in front of a television. I had my phone out following along. I love the draft. And I don't love it for all of the stuff that leads up to the draft. I really don't. I love it for what comes on the day of the draft and what we're able to talk about afterwards, which is who did what? Did they find some solutions? Did they not? Let's predict how these players are going to react. And so on Monday, when I am back, I will have for you winners, losers. I will give you my grade for every single team in the NFL. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it as well. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens of Riptide Media Production. Make sure that you download the 102.9 The Game app to follow along. Rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. Right? Agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. We'll see you next time. We'll see you on Monday. Until then, peace.